What's going on, guys? Jimmy Mahalik here, back with a second stimulus check update today for you guys. Now, if you guys watched my last stimulus check update video, we basically did a rundown of all the current events of what's going on with the second stimulus bill. That was a great video. I'll link to that at the end of this video so you guys can watch that if you haven't yet. So what we're going to do in this video is we're going to go over the 5 different proposals on second stimulus. So the 5 different potential second stimuluses that you could be getting. But first, if you guys are new to the channel, make sure you click the subscribe button down below. It's completely free to do so. This way you won't miss out on second stimulus check videos, and also hit the like button for me. It really helps out my channel. So we have 5 main different bill proposals here that we're going to go over here in just a second. And I want you guys to let me know down in the comments which bill or which proposal for a second stimulus check or second stimulus payment you guys think is the best. So let me know which one you guys think is the best down below in the comments. Okay, so here we go. Here's number 1. Now, the first bill we're going to talk about is potentially the most important, and that's called the HEROES Act. This bill has already passed in the House of Representatives, which is controlled by the Democrats. They have already passed this bill. It's a $3 trillion stimulus bill, and it was passed by the Democrats in the House, and that's very important. And the reason why that is important is because this bill now has to go on to the Senate and be voted on by the Senate, which should be done here shortly. Now, remember, the Democrats passed this bill, and the Republicans have basically said that they don't want to pass this bill. They want to negotiate, and the reason is because the Democrats have included a whole bunch of other stuff into this bill besides just a second stimulus check for Americans. So as you can see here, the HEROES Act provides a $1,200 extra stimulus check for Americans per person, and as you can see here, that includes up to 3 children also getting the $1,200 per person stimulus check, and this means that families could receive up to $6,000. Now, I think Republicans are going to want to negotiate on that children part, where I think they're going to want to probably give children and dependents probably more like $500, like was passed in the first one, for you got $500 per child. And I think that they're going to probably want to negotiate that. I think $1,200 is a little bit too high, but it could pass just like it is right there. Now, here is the main problem with this bill. It's basically a laundry list of Democrats' wish list. It's like the Christmas list for Democrats. They threw everything they wanted in this bill, including the kitchen sink. And you can see some of them here. And some of the highlights include a $10,000 in debt relief for borrowers of federal and private student loans. So you'd get a $10,000 relief on your student loans if you have student loans. Now, there are some good things in this bill on the extra parts, including $1 trillion for state and local governments and $500 billion directly to the states. Now, that those numbers might be high, but that is good money because there are a lot of cities and states in the United States that were struggling financially even before this economic problem. So that could be a good thing. And the other thing here is that $100 billion in relief fund to support hospitals and other healthcare providers. In addition to a $200 billion HEROES fund to ensure essential workers who have continued working during the pandemic receive hazard pay. So again, that was the HEROES Act. That's the first bill we're going to cover. That is the one that's already passed the House, and the Senate has to vote on it here shortly, and they want to negotiate on it. The second stimulus bill we're going to talk about today is the proposed Rent and Mortgage Cancellation Act of 2020. And the main feature of this bill is it would suspend all rent and mortgage payments due during this pandemic, starting in April and going until 30 days after the termination of the pandemic, determined by the Federal Emergency Management Agency. Tenants and mortgagees would have no responsibility to ever make those payments. Now, this has actually been talked about in a couple different bills, and it's an interesting proposal because if you had a $2,000 a month mortgage, just for a nice round number, and you didn't have to pay that for 6 months, that's essentially a $2,000 per month stimulus package that you don't need to pay, and the government doesn't have to actually print that money. It's just that the borrowers are not paying it back to the mortgage holders or the banks. And there might need to be some background work, like the government, lends money to the banks to keep them afloat, which they're already doing at basically a 0% rate. So big banks can actually borrow money at a 0% interest rate right now and not have to pay any interest back to the government. So we could actually see that when we get a second stimulus bill passed as a form of getting a second stimulus payment to Americans, and basically letting you not have to pay your rent or mortgage for several months, aka a stimulus package. Okay, so number 3 and the next one, number 4, are both proposals by Republicans, which is really good because we want to start seeing more Republican support for a second stimulus package, and then we'll basically have a second stimulus payment. So this proposal is by Senator Rob Portman, who is a Republican from Ohio, to provide a temporary $450 per week bonus for unemployed workers returning to work on top of their wages. They're calling this a back to work bonus. The proposal provides $450 for individuals returning back to work, meaning they receive their wages plus a $450 bonus all the way through July 31st. Now, a lot of Republicans are actually in support of an idea like this because the whole Republican stance is that they want people to go back to work, they want to open up the economy, and they just want to kind of get everything back to normal. That's basically the whole Republican stance. So there's kind of a lot of Republican support for an idea like this, but I think they really need to work out some kinks, because the problem with this is the way it's proposed now is that essential workers who are already working won't get that bonus, and also people like on SSI and SSDI and disability won't get any bonus at all. So, and the problem is if you're already retired or you're disabled, you can't really go back to work. So I think that they would need to include some provisions for people who can't go back to work and people who were already working through this whole pandemic. You guys can let me know what you think down below in the comments. Okay, so proposal number 4 is by Republican and celebrity Mark Cuban. You probably know him from the TV show Shark Tank, where, they teach people how to make money as an entrepreneur and all that good stuff. And Mark Cuban, I think, is very interesting because I think he's going to be a presidential candidate in 2024 for the Republicans, and I think he would actually make a really good president. So his proposal is families should get $1,000 in stimulus checks every 2 weeks, so $2,000 per month. But there's one catch. And the catch is that it must be spent within 10 days of receiving the stimulus check every 2 weeks. Now, I know why he wants to do this and have that rule is because he wants to stimulate the economy. What happens is if you were getting $2,000 every month and you were kind of forced to spend it, not save it, which probably wouldn't be that hard for most Americans because you would just spend it on your rent or your mortgage, spend it on food, spend it on your car payments and, stuff like that. You could probably spend it very quickly. He basically wants Americans to get the stimulus check, pay their bills, buy the stuff they need, and send it back into the economy. Once that money goes back into the economy, then employers and companies have more money coming in so that they can then bring more workers back to work and afford to pay their salaries. But I think they would have a really hard time with the actual rules of forcing people to spend the money within 10 days. I don't think they would actually be able to enforce that. I think it would be logistically, it would be a nightmare. So I do think that that's a good idea, but I don't think they'd be able to enforce the actual rule of spending the stimulus within 10 days. Okay, so proposal number 5 is actually a viewer favorite. A lot of you guys in my comments, when we've talked about a couple of these different bills, have told me that this one is your favorite stimulus check, and you guys can let me know down below. But this is $2,000 per person per month, okay? And we're going to go over a couple of different bills here in a second, but $2,000 per child depending on the package. So this package is called the Monthly Economic Crisis Support Act and would send payments to over 90% of Americans $2,000 per month. So the three different proposals that are for $2,000 per month stimulus checks to Americans. Number one is the Emergency Money for the People Act, which would provide $2,000 monthly stimulus checks for up to 1 year. Number two is called the ABC Act, the Automatic Boost to Communities Act, which would provide a monthly stimulus check for $2,000 for at least 12 months and an additional $1,000 monthly payment for the following 12 months. Now, I definitely think that that is too much. Republicans won't go for that. They don't want to do it for 12 months. So this next one is actually the most likely of the $2,000 per month packages. And that is the Monthly Economic Crisis Support Act, which would provide $2,000 monthly stimulus checks for at least 6 months. So those are the three different proposals for the $2,000 a month. They're all very similar. That's why I lumped them all into option number 5. So you guys should let me know down below in the comments which stimulus package you guys like the most, and also which one you guys think is most likely to pass. We're going to see some negotiations from the Republicans coming here very soon on the HEROES Act, but also these other bills, because if they want to negotiate, they're going to look at what other Republicans are proposing and the other proposals by Democrats and decide and pick and choose what they want to go into the final bill that will give us a second stimulus check. Also, make sure to hit the like button for me, guys. It helps my channel a lot. And over here, I will link other second stimulus check videos. You can watch those next. And also on this channel, I teach people how to replace their 9-to-5 income by selling products on Amazon. And over here, I'll link a playlist that teaches you how to do that. You can watch on my YouTube channel. Thanks, guys, and I will see you in the next video.